Oh my God.
Hello.
Hey,
Oh my
Virginia.
God.
Where are you?
Second week with me. You don't have a choice, Juicy.
Bro, you look cute tonight, honey.
You
Yes.
too, darling. Oh my God.
Thank you, hon. Just here we are. Juicy Pop is now a Queer Thoughts, honey. Started in 2018 as a monthly drag show in San Francisco to showcase the queer trans performers of color in a predominantly cis white male space in the Castro. Juicy Thoughts transformed into a podcast in 2020 to learn more about LGBTQ public figures in the Bay Area. And now, adding to my media mogul empire as I become the next Gaysian Oprah, we have Queer Thoughts on Chopsticks Alley, and I invited my good Judy, Virginia, please, to be my permanent co-host.
Yes. And you know what? Chopsticks Alley Art promotes Southeast Asian cultural heritage. We provide support to artists through art exhibits, classes, performances, and events. We celebrate the cultural diversity of South Asian art to foster greater understanding and connect communities. How wonderful is that? Do you see?
It's amazing, Virginia. And Chopsticks Alley will be donating 250 art kits accompanied by virtual art classes by teaching artist Cynthia Cao to Olinder Elementary School, and residents in District 7 San Jose in partnership with AACI. Big thanks to council member Maya Esperanza and Raul Peralez, I can't say words, sorry, honey, for making this possible. One more thing, there's going to be a panel discussion tomorrow noon on Asian cultural perspectives on public transportation. I love public transportation.
That's amazing.
Yeah, specifically for San Jose downtown. You can go check it out streaming live on Facebook at Move San Jose. That's the at symbol Move San Jose. And Comcast Channel 30, createtv.org. By the way, we're on Create TV. It's going to be featuring David Kim, the California Secretary of Transportation. He will give the latest and greatest update on transportation. Oh my gosh, also, we could not have our queer thoughts without our behind the scenes folks who are, helping us along here. Our streamer, Tassi Alabastro, and our producer, Yancy.
Yancy, my dear friend Yancy, woohoo, who has been helping us tremendously, making this happen and making us look professional and whatnot. Go, girl. You're our hero.
Yes. So why not take it away with my Juicy Thoughts intro, which will be replaced by a Queer Thoughts intro one day, right?
And here she is, new in a #1, chewing up the chops. She's big and getting bigger, and she goes by the name of Juicy. Everybody wants a piece of the action. Everybody's talking about Juicy. Her favorite body parts will soon be yours for a fraction. Her insides lying overhead will be a distraction. And everybody knows about, everybody's talking about Juicy.
This is the new Queer Thoughts on Chopsticks Alley.
Woo! I can't wait to make a new intro for the both of us, Juicy.
Okay, this will look
We're
real
gonna make
cute.
it
I
look,
know. Because Virginia
even
is a
more.
professional, honey. A
Yes.
professional filmmaker, okay? We're here broadcasting live on Facebook and on twitch.tv/Chopsticks Alley. A special shout out to our friends at the Billy DeFrank LGBT Community Center down in San Jose. And I'm also shout out to GAPA, who's also broadcasting live on their stream on Facebook. I'm so thankful to be here with you all in these crazy times. Isn't it crazy right now? Oh my goodness.
Super crazy.
I'm coming from you live from San Francisco in my apartment in Twin Peaks, which is a little bit messy. Tonight, we have one of our favorite dancing Punjabi Fijians, Sanjeev.
Oh my God, I can't forget the first time I saw him perform. I was like so mesmerized, like everyone else.
Mesmerizing. Yeah. We're going to introduce them more fully a bit later, but first, time for our Queer Thoughts.
Here we go.
Here we go. So Virginia, first, how's it going, really? How's it going right now for you?
Yeah, as you remember, during our first episode, I was telling all of you that, I was going through some personal challenges, and, it continued on for about a month now, and I'm finally on my way out, and out from the woods. But this
Mm,
has really been really challenging, not only for me but for a lot of LGBTQ plus, IA plus individuals, especially during this pandemic, because the stakes are higher for us. People are actually getting kicked out. They are not allowed to stay at home with families because their families don't accept them for who they are. So this
mm.
has been really a trying time for all of us in the community.
That's absolutely
Yeah.
right, Virginia.
Yeah.
That's our theme for tonight is shining the light on LGBTQ mental health, and
Mm-hmm.
really just thinking about like what it takes to get out of that darkness.
Mm-hmm.
How to like, do we lift ourselves up? Do we rely on others? Do we ask for help? How do we do this? I mean, I have some stats here. Our existence as queer people is difficult in this cis white hetero male dominated world, right? My goodness,
Definitely.
4.5%, 4.5% of the US population identifies as lesbian, gay, or bisexual. But of those, 39% reported mental illness last year. That's 5.8 million people, bigger than the state of Kentucky, honey. Oh my goodness. When
Mhm.
I heard those
I just
stats,
I wonder what the stats are now during this pandemic. I'm pretty sure it's skyrocketed, especially
yeah,
for our community.
yeah, because it's
Yeah.
like what COVID did was it made the existing struggles even more
Mhm.
prominent, even more pronounced. And
Yeah.
those stats are just from like 2017, y'all. So this is
Mhm.
like, we gotta really feel like choosing healing and choose to be inspired by the light. You know,
Yeah.
I take solace in Beyonce's "Black is King,"
Mhm.
music video montage, where she says, "Life is a set of choices." And
Mhm.
lead or be led astray. I mean, those
Yeah.
words, when I think about that, like, mental health is just like anything. We have to
Yeah.
practice it. We have to be intentional about things. We have to
Yeah.
really think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the center of it is people like us who belong in our community. We just want to be seen, and it's really hard to be able to be seen, especially during these times. When you are displaced, when you are homeless, and when you find yourself into situations wherein you have to ask for help. We are actually the ones who get the least help because of who we
Mm-hmm.
are. And so, for all of you who are part of our community who are going through struggles similar to what I just described, we just wanted to know that we see you. Hold on, help is on the way. We will do our best, but please, please, you know, have some compassion to yourself, and talk to whoever you can gravitate to. And honey, your life is very important. So, you know, do everything you can to still feel the love and feel that compassion inside you. Be compassionate to yourself.
Yes, yes. Like treat yourself like sometimes. And thank you for saying that, Virginia, because I feel like sometimes, well, I'll speak for myself. Uh, I have this negative self-talk, and like I didn't do
Mhm.
that well enough, or I'm not. Look at her makeup. What the, like who are you to choose blue lips, right? Kind of stuff like that, But and so like this negative self talk, and like sometimes when I'm really down, it's like, are you what are you doing? Are you? You're not worth anything. Like we're so hard on ourselves sometimes, and I feel like especially in the AAPI community, and then on top of that, the LGBTQ community. On top of that, like our mental health it comes from all sides, and we're sometimes are our worst enemy, and
Mhm.
sometimes I think we should think of ourselves like sometimes when you feel that negative self-talk, like maybe treat yourself with compassion like you would treat like a child.
Mhm.
Treat your heart and see that you're hurting, and then acknowledge it, and
Yeah.
then like and let that child know, let your inner self know that things are gonna be
Yeah.
okay. Whatever's
Definitely.
happening in the world, we'll get through this. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's
And I
okay to
know,
be sad though.
yeah, I know it very much, and because of, we have proven in history, as our community have survived all the turmoils that we have gone through, even during the HIV and AIDS situation. I know that our community is very resilient. That's
Mm-hmm.
one trait that we have, is that we can withstand so many hardships. So think of this pandemic as just one of those. We are strong. We're going to make it through. We are special people. We are beautiful people, and we're going to make it. So
we are beautiful
remember that.
people. We
Yeah.
are beautiful people. And I'm so thankful to know you, Virginia, actually through GAPA. And we did a shout out to GAPA earlier, but what is GAPA? GAPA stands for the Gay Asian Pacific Alliance. It's been around for 32 years. And since 1988, we've been standing for this vision of a powerful queer and trans API community that is seen, heard, and celebrated. And how do we do that? We're gonna bring our families, unite our families and allies through inclusion, advocacy, and love.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, you were a Mr. GAPA, you know, in your boy persona. I was a Miss
2012.
GAPA. Yes, 2012. I was a Miss GAPA 2016. Our current reigning Mr. GAPA 2019, 2020, 2021, whatever. Is Sanjeev is coming on, and we
I am
are
so excited.
we're so excited because so the way that you become a Mr. or Miss GAPA is through GAPA Runway. And so it's our annual extravaganza event. This year we're taking it virtual because, like, you know, all things, it's hard to gather in person. But GAPA Runway is on November 21st. Check it out, gappa.org/runway. We definitely would love to see you there. We would love to have you join us as a member of GAPA. You know, volunteer, sponsor, all the things. We need all the things, right, Virginia?
It's such a fun community, Juicy. I can't still forget the first time I saw the pageant. I was just blown away by our numbers, you know, because sometimes it's so hard to just feel that you belong if you don't see people who look like you. So to be in that one space, in that one auditorium with people who actually look like you, actually has you know, a long lasting effect on you, and it actually comforts you, you know, as an API, as in Southeast Asian. You know, it really helps a lot. So I encourage you, if you're feeling alone, if you haven't found community yet, check out GAPA, which, by the way, has rebranded now into Prism, right? Do you see?
No, actually, it's funny. It's funny that you mentioned that because Prism Foundation is a spin-off organization that they went off and did their scholarships and community grants, which is amazing. But GAPA has still been GAPA since 1988. And so GAPA.org still exists, GAPA.org. But we love our Prism friends who continue their mission of empowering the LGBTQ community by leveraging resources. I mean, I still know their mission statement because I was Miss GAPA at one point. I do want to again mention GAPA Runway is happening on November 21st, gappa.org/runway. Check it out. The Rise of the Immortals. You're an immortal, honey. You're an immortal.
Yeah, and you coined that term, by the way, for all of us. Thank you very much.
You're
you know,
welcome.
And we take so much pride in that term because, you know, it has somehow elevated us to something more, you know, forever lasting and divine and all that good stuff, all that good juju. So thank you so much, Juicy. I am so proud to be part of the GAPA Immortals.
Yes, I mean, the GAPA Immortals is kind of a new thing, a new invention, as it were. Because back when in 2016, I was Miss GAPA, and I was like, so where are our alumni? Where are our past winners? Where are Mr. GAPAs of past? And it was actually hard to keep track of folks. People move. There was no real organization. And so I was like, let's change that. Let's create this Immortals idea. And then here's the special thing. Sanjeev, our Mr. GAPA, took that energy, took my spreadsheet, basically. It's like, we kind of have a list. We kind of have some contacts. And Sanjeev was like, I want to do some more. We need them right now. We need them to shine the light on, you know, our health, our mental health, our you know, wellness. We need the power of the Immortals. We need divinity. We need that in our lives.
Yeah,
and
Sanjeev is full of fire, I'm telling you.
I know. I that's why I'm so impressed. And we're so lucky to have Sanjeev continuing on. So we're not crowning a new Mr. GAPA or Miss GAPA this year. We're having a look back and kind of like in COVID, they put pause on everything. So we're gonna pause and we're just gonna Mocha Papa Latte, our Miss GAPA, is gonna continue on, and Mr. GAPA Sanjeev is also gonna continue on. They're doing us a solid by helping us out that way.
And we're gonna have more of Sanjeev later and talk about GAPA. It just so happened, you see, that my documentary film, 50 Years of Fabulous, it's actually premiering in all the digital platforms and the theaters at the Roxy Theater on the 23rd. It's called 50 Years of Fabulous. It chronicles,
Yes, I love it. I love
yeah,
that.
it chronicles the 50-year history of our community, especially here in San Francisco. So a very specific lens of an organization, the Imperial Council, which I could say the pioneering organization that basically invented the fundraising community here and all around the
Yes.
US. Yeah.
Like
And
they invented the idea of like let's make royalty. Like we already have drag queens are already queens,
uh-huh.
so why not create an empress? So that's what happened, right? Jose Saria is like,
Yeah,
I'm already a queen, so now you shall call me empress, and then
exactly.
that's exactly what like Jose Saria did, right?
That's what Jose Saria did. And why don't we look at the trailer right now so that people will have an idea what this organization is about, and so that they can mark their calendars on the 23rd. I think that our producer will we'll show them the link to the Roxy website. But let's look at the trailer right now.
Bars were to the gay civil rights movement what the churches were to the black civil rights movement.
After his election, he said that no one will run for office in San Francisco ever again without first knocking on the door of the gay community.
What do we need? When do we need it? Now!
In those early dark years of AIDS, the only thing we had were each other.
Every night a week, they were fundraising. They were selling junk, they were auctioning.
I want to run so I can continue the legacy of the Imperial Court.
I'm proud to be part of this. Anybody that's in there is proud to be part of this.
United we stand, or divided they'll catch us one by one.
All right. Yeah. And you know why this is so much more relevant? It's because we have some Miss Gappas who have actually become empresses for this organization. Yes. And one of them is Empress Chimera Rouge, who was the 50th Empress of San Francisco.
Yes,
who did
we love
such
Chimera.
Amazing work.
Yes. I was there holding a sign on voting day. So the way it works is there's a voting day in San Francisco.
I think I saw you, yeah.
I was like part of her paint the town red because it's
Yes.
Khmer Rouge. And I was holding a sign and I was like, this is amazing because it's like basically, if you don't know, in the Castro, like they basically have two sides and they're duking it out, like voting, which by the way, voting happens it's kind of like it's like a mini election.
That was an amazing year for Chimera. Were you at the coronation? Did you see her walking down the city hall with that red dress? Oh my God, that was a magical.
No, I did.
Moment.
I wasn't super involved back then. I was like,
I was
kind of nervous.
It was like meant to be that the Empress was an Asian Pacific Islander woman who represented our community. And that was really, truly amazing for our community. And not only that, Juicy, our current Empress right now is also Miss Gappa, Empress Mimi Osa.
Yes, our current reigning. I was actually on her team. So for Mimi Osa, I was on her campaign team. I was running the Polk Street voting, like trying to get out the vote in Polk Street.
Yeah.
And, we were like literally in a car, like trying to get voters to like the voting polling place. It was so cute with the Aunt Charlie's and the cinch. This is actually the hair that I wore that day. But yeah, I mean, I love Mimi Osa. She was actually one of the Miss Gappas because there were two Miss Gappas after me. I like to say, like, I did so much for our community that it took two Miss Gappas to replace me, honey.
Okay, I can accept that. Okay.
Anyways, thank you so much for showing us that 50 Years of Fabulous. It's going to be playing at the Roxy Theater on October 23rd. Is that right?
Yes. And the link is, if you want to find out some more, it's roxy.com/50-years-of-fabulous.
Yes, we love the Roxy Theater. I love it. Oh my God, this mission is so cute.
Yeah, I why we're talking about this. It's really important to know our past, what our forefathers have gone through and what they've done, because it gives us a sense of direction and how we're going to face the present. And you see, I have a TikTok personality, and I actually featured Jose Saria and Mimi Osa in the past couple of days. So Tassie, do you wanna?
I think we're gonna get to that a little bit later.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
because we want to introduce our special guest. Sanjeev has been waiting for very patiently for the past 20 minutes. So, but I want to come back to it. We're gonna watch that video real quick.
Yes.
After we meet Sanjeev.
Yeah, I got so excited.
Prematurely. But let me introduce Sanjeev in my most dragnificent voice. Sanjeev is the first Punjabi Indo-Fijian title holder in GAPA's history. He is co-founder of Parivar, a social collective supporting and celebrating queer, trans, gender non-conforming people connected to the South Asian diaspora. When he's not wowing audiences with his unique blend of dance, drag, and drama, you'll find him traveling the country lecturing on identity and performance. Welcome to Queer Thoughts.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I am honored to be here virtually with my immortal grand family.
Yes. Oh my God, Sanjeev.
This is Dynasty, honey. This is Dynasty.
Dynasty, honey. We are serving it to them on the internets.
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll just do a little quick little chat, easy peasy. Sanjeev has done so many media interviews, so I know this is gonna be the best thing I've ever on our Queer Thoughts. This is gonna be the best. This is setting the bar real high. This is Sanjeev setting the bar real high.
Sanjeev, how do you do it? Like whenever I see you have such, I don't know how to describe it, such presence, such fierceness without even doing anything. You could just feel it in the air, even right through the screen. Like you could just see that immense power and love and passion. I don't know what you have. Can you explain to us?
Virginia, you are an sweetheart. I'm so grateful for that. And I'm grateful that you all feel that. For me, I have to really cultivate a sense of peace and stillness within myself. So I go within a lot. You talked about mental health at the beginning of the show, and a lot of my challenges revolve around mental health and trauma I carry from growing up as I grew up. And so a lot of my, I guess, divinity comes from that place of stillness within and being so very grateful for every breath I take. And I just hope to inspire that in other people, is if no matter how tough life is, we're still living, we're still in the game. And so to be grateful for that is where I kind of start every moment.
I love that. Thank you so much for that, because you're such an activist. Like, when did you first identify as an activist?
I would believe March 30th, 1987, the day I was born. I think for me, the word activist is, it can mean a lot of different things. There's a lot of different social connotations to it. There's a lot of contextual experiences that people have with that word. So for me, I consider myself someone who is living unapologetically in my own rhythm. And that means pushing against boundaries. That means pushing against resistance in a kind way, but with strength. And I never want people to think that being kind is releasing all power. It is holding the most power. So I hold the title of activist, I think, just by existing. The way I exist, how colorfully I exist, how honestly and vulnerably I exist. So I think I've always been that way. I've just been more in tune with sharing my heart, sharing my truth, my sachai. Sachai in Hindi means truth. And so for me, I think that's what identifies me as an activist. But I just want people to live a life that's full of abundance, however they decide to live that.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness,
that's
so amazing. Virginia, aren't you so inspired by Sanjeev? Oh my goodness.
I am very much. I'm just so curious. I want to know about your background, how your upbringing, because I could read that there's so much in there that everyone can learn from you. Because like I said, you have this presence and this command and this stillness in you as well that everyone can actually observe. It's very palpable in the way your demeanor and the way you talk to people. And I think a lot of people need that, especially nowadays. So if you could just give us a little bit about your background, Sanjeev, where you grew up, if you had any religion, like what kind of training were you able to absorb from people around you? What kind of institutions were you associated in your journey as an activist?
I think that, and I do want to give a little bit of a warning that I'll talk about some tough things around my childhood and trauma. So if anybody is not comfortable with that, take a breath, take some water. But I'm from the Bay Area, born and raised, real proud from Hayward, East Bay. What's up? My mom is from the Fiji Islands with lineage from India, and my dad's from Punjab, India. They met here, created a life, and created two more, my younger sisters, and raised us in the Bay Area in a way that could be seen as progressive because they told us that religion didn't really matter. Doesn't matter what you believe in as long as you're good people. I grew up in a very interfaith background. My entire family core, both chosen and given, are a variety of different sort of practicing folks. So I grew up going to church. I was a good choir boy, Sunday school, Bible study. I grew up going to pujas. So kind of engaging with the Hindu practices, going to Gurdwara, the Sikh temple, understanding that, going to Eid celebrations, things like that. And so I'm celebrating with my friends who maybe practice in the dark arts and those kind of spaces. So for me, divinity wasn't provided from one building or one sort of book. My parents said, just be kind, just be good, just be loving, and live from there. And as I was growing up, I kind of knew I felt different. I just was always expressing. I started performing at 3 years old on the fireplace mantle. And that led to me performing at family parties and weddings and functions and just have never stopped. Along that path, as I was a kid, I went through some experiences that were pretty tough. And this is where the trigger warning comes in, but I am a child of both addiction, a background of addiction. I have a father who's an alcoholic, and I'm a child of sexual abuse. So a lot of my life has been informed by the trauma that I experienced very early on. And as I became more conscious going more into school, there was a lot of bullying, there was a lot of violence, there was a lot of really tough times. One thing that I really credit performance for and the arts for was it never allowed me to heart it. It never allowed me to calcify that trauma within me because I had to constantly go within my heart and soul to pull out the emotion. And so from a very young age, I've been, involved in talking through my issues, educating myself in a way that was reasonable. I'm the oldest son on both sides of the family. And in Indian culture, there is some sort of social clout there to kind of hold the name, the generation. But I knew I wasn't going to carry that legacy. I'm the first in my family to go to college, first in the family to earn a master's degree in education, followed the path of higher education, taught in universities all over, traveled. But ultimately, it's the path of art, expression, performance, drag that has been my most consistent and engaging path. And that's what's led me here in a nutshell.
That's amazing, Sanjeev. I mean, you talk about drag, just, what informs your drag, and can you define drag, I mean, for you, what is your personal definition of it?
My personal definition of drag is really that sort of space within that is in the core of all of the identities that we hold. So we do drag all day long from the moment we wake up. If we have parents, we're the drag of children. If we have siblings, we're the drag of siblings, we're the friends. So we play different roles. We code switch throughout the day, throughout the time. So for me, my drag comes from that point of humanity to say, okay, I am bare, I am without makeup, I'm without anything. What can I express? What story can I tell? And so much of my drag is truthfully informed by old Bollywood realness. That's always been a palette that I've been there. And I'm a child of the 80s and 90s in the Bay Area. So American pop culture has really kind of solidified that sort of way to tell a story in a provocative way. I'm from the age of Madonna and Britney and Janet and just kind of all the boy bands and girl bands. And so that really gets informed. And then I put it in a blender and add lots of spice, lots of seasoning, because we don't do anything under seasoned, honey. We do lots of spices. And I try to then get up there and say, what do I absolutely love? What story am I telling? What am I absolutely going to share? And I try to do that intentionally, from the colors that I choose to wear, from the makeup, from the song choices I pick. Because I know that at the end of the day, it's sort of vanity. Me getting up on stage doing something or in front of a camera is one thing. But if somebody of my similar background, of my own sort of cultural narrative, sees me wearing his auntie sari or wearing a beautiful pagdi, a turban, and says, oh my God, there's somebody out there just living their queer fantasy. They stepped out of the closet wearing their mom's clothes and are just doing it so fabulously. I can do that too. That's what really informs my drag. That's why I do it. So it feels good to be booked and blessed after all this time. And this is my life path. I'm gonna be until the moment I drop. But it also means that there's gonna be so many more people that are activated in a way that they can live their most beautiful drag, and however that is. It doesn't have to be performance. It can be the drag of a lawyer, or the drag of a person at the grocery store who's serving people, or the drag of people who are doing community work. We're all drag performers.
Yes, we are. And all we need to do is realize that. Am I right, Juicy?
That's right, Virginia.
When did you realize you were a drag queen, Juicy? I'm curious.
When I realized, like, it's so funny. That's funny that you asked that question. Thank you for the question. I'm very pageant. Well, and can you repeat the question? Just kidding. No, that's a very inside baseball gaffer reference. Sorry. So when did I first become a drag queen? It was actually law school. Well, no, the first time I was in drag was in undergrad. It was we had coming out week. We had a drag ball at the end of the week. And this is actually the week. It was in October. National Coming Out Week was in October. And we have a drag ball. And I got into drag. I borrowed a dress and it got put up in drag. I have the worst makeup than this. Which I'm giving you full clown realness. I love it. Thank you. But that was my first time in drag. It was in Texas, and then like it was maybe a couple more years, maybe 10 more years later in law school. Did it again, and then when I became Miss GAPA, which was about like 8 more years later, that's when I really feel like I became a drag queen, because I was like, I guess I'm doing this now. I guess this is what it is.
Yeah.
Where I get up all the drags and I'm now very active. I'm like, I am a drag out the boat ambassador. You don't see this, but la la la. I do so many
Did any
things.
of you have sort of like a moment of calling? You just had that moment with yourself and realize, oh my God, I need to do this. Yeah, Sanjeev, did you have that?
I think that it was very it was during a time I used to live in Los Angeles prior to moving back. So I lived in LA for about 5 years, and I was doing the whole, let's hit up Hollywood, let's make it, honey. Let's get booked, let's do this, let's advance the community. And the only things that I was really up for was Terrorist #2 and Tech Nerd #3. And it was real, we can talk about problematic and how Hollywood really perpetuates a lot of that. And I was into it. But it was always a struggle. But throughout the time, I was really trying to keep performing, getting into clubs and bars, even drag spaces. And they would say, no, you can't perform an Indian song. Nobody's going to understand the words. It's just not the look we're going for. I would walk up and down Santa Monica Boulevard, like in and out of every bar. And a lot of rejection. And within me, I kept hearing the music of my childhood. All these beautiful Hindi and Punjabi songs, Bhangra music that I would listen to and dance to growing up. I would just keep replaying them in my head, and I would just kind of listen to them, throughout the day and stuff. And I kept thinking, what is this? Why do I keep feeling inclined towards it? And that's when I made the decision. I think home is calling. I need to move back home. So I moved back home. And in 2015, I just kind of hit the ground running. I went and performed. I think my first show was at Soma Arts. And I did a full Hindi song, and it never stopped since then. And it felt so good to be unapologetically ethnic, but I listened to that calling within me and followed it, no matter how crazy it seemed to like move back home as a grown-ass person, which I'm so blessed for. But
yeah, definitely. I asked that because, especially nowadays when it's really hard with mental illness, sometimes the one thing that can save you is actually your calling and your dream, because, it frees you from all the worries and you're just so focused on what you want to do with life. And all your energy is just surrounding that. And, little you would know that it has actually saved you from so many traumas already, because you're just there doing the work. And so, which leads me to my, the next question, which is in our script, Juicy. Why is it important to focus on mental health nowadays? Sanjeev, and how do you, how do you do that personally?
I think that 2020 has shown us mental health is really the only kind of health we can take care of for ourselves. Really, it is key because it starts within. And particularly, I think that our community, our beautiful ethnic community that has all these wonderful intersections, have not historically talked about it. We're shy about it. Even in my own family, my dad fled from Punjab, India at the time of the Sikh genocide and saw a lot. And a lot of that informs his addiction. A lot of that sort of trauma keeps coming up. And as I was a kid, I was like, you need to go to therapy. You need to talk this out, to no avail, really. So as a young kid, and I just kind of jumped into therapy the minute I absolutely could. And often it seemed so cost prohibitive because the image of therapy was rich white ladies going to their therapist every week and blah, blah, blah. But Caucasian realness. But what I did was I found community and free services, low cost services that weren't cost prohibitive, and got into therapy, got into group therapy, worked 12-step programs. I am like a 12-step whore, honey. I will walk up in there, do my promises. And it's so important for people like us and people who are visibly not of the majority to talk about what it means to cultivate that self within. Our mind is a garden, and we have to kind of till the land to pick out all the weeds and rocks and things like that, and then plant our seeds and water those seeds and give them love and sunshine. And know that every season, the crop may not bear the type of fruit that you wanted, but you can keep going. And that's really what mental health tells me, is that every breath is the chance to keep living life. And I think it's really important right now, because I think people are going in and saying, okay, I'm stuck where I'm stuck, sheltering in my own place, and I have to go within. And it's an uncomfortable space, but it's the most private. It's the most. It's really, I think about it as my mental junk drawer. Organize and try to figure out what's in there and figure out how to make things more efficient.
Yeah, no, I love that you said your mind is a garden and you have to till the land. You have to do the work, right? You have to keep it kept up, and I don't really garden, but I can imagine that it takes a lot of work, and those roses don't grow themselves, honey. But before we get to our social media moment, because TikTok is one way that I think Virginia expresses her drag. And does her work, which beautifully. I am not a TikTok queen. I tried TikTok. My TikTok is basically like sitting on the couch without a wig, and I'm like,
they're funny though.
They're funny, right? Yeah, that's cute. I'm just kind of looking at things. But before we get to that, and just one last question about mental health, and it's really it takes a lot of courage to be that vulnerable and talk about things that are hard to talk about. I'm sure it was hard to tell your father, like, you need to go to therapy. Like, I cannot do that to my father. My father will not go to therapy, and he's been through war, like the Vietnam War, and he saw horrible things, and he saw his father like get assassinated, stuff like this. And so what does vulnerability look like in our culture? I mean, how do you do it?
That's a lovely question. I think that honoring, so much of what our culture has been through, and understanding why we've kept within, because it's been so difficult to be persecuted from so many different angles. All of the intersections we has had some sort of resistance, socially, politically, regionally. And so we've been a culture kind of all encompassing, where we've kind of always been going here and just trying to make it. And there really wasn't, I think for me, when I started my journey into my mental health, I felt so guilty. And sometimes I still do, because what right do I have to start talking about my feelings when my parents came to this country with not much and just had to figure out a brand new world on their own, or have escaped persecution in so many different ways? But vulnerability to me is going within yourself and saying, what am I feeling right now? And how do I express that? And that could be, am I angry? Great. Can I put that down on paper? Or is that manifesting in a way where I'm yelling at people in traffic, or I'm being shady to the person at Target at the checkout? Or am I sad? And is that manifesting in the way where I'm tired and I'm lethargic and I'm not feeling well? And so for me, vulnerability looks like just checking in with myself and saying, hey, Sanjeev, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Can I love you anymore today? Or do you need your space? And how can we facilitate that? And so vulnerability is really kind of, it's a beautiful language within oneself. And we have to learn how to speak that language, learn how to articulate that language first to ourselves, and then it'll radiate out. I think that, you know, vulnerability is really, for me, the key to that feeling you all so beautifully affirmed at the beginning of the show, where something does radiate, and I'm conscious of that. I get kind of what energy I put, but for me, it is about being vulnerable. Even if I am having a depressive episode or an anxious episode, which there's been plenty during pandemic, I try to check myself. I try to say, who am I interacting with today? Okay, I'm gonna be talking to Juicy in Virginia. So what are my favorite parts about hanging out with them? And I list those things. And so, you know, there's tools that we can do to be vulnerable. And I wanna also honor this term that's popped up on the internets everywhere about toxic positivity, where, you know, where I'm not really saying to be vulnerable, you have to say, okay, this is my pain and my struggle, and now we're gonna just be happy. No, being sad is okay. Being anxious is okay. Being depressed is okay. Dealing with trauma in a different way is okay. Just before this, I was getting dolled up. I think somebody like dropped something and like made a really crashing bang sound. And that really triggered my PTSD from kind of past abuse and things like that. And I just had a moment where I had to put the makeup brushes down, take a breath, sit in some stillness, and say, okay, you're fine. It was just a response. And back to blending.
Back to blending, indeed.
This is really interesting topic because I don't think there's enough work being done on mental health of immigrants. You know, I don't think there's any at all. You know, first and foremost, we have language barriers for people who just came here and haven't learned the language. I can relate, you know, because although I spoke English, it was really hard for me to understand nuances and subcontexts. And that in itself was a huge challenge for me. And so I really think there has to be more work done because, you know, after all, we're all immigrants in this country. So we need to pay more attention to people who just came here for good reasons and are contributing to this country in very good ways, in very prosperous ways. So we need to put more attention and more care and more work on mental health of immigrants, in my opinion.
Yes, Virginia for president. Just kidding.
Yes.
Yes. Well, Virginia, I wanna make sure we get to your social media moments that we talked about before. I mean, we talked about royalty, we talked about visibility, we talked about philanthropy. I think you have a couple TikTok videos.
Yes, I have a TikTok video for Jose Saria. You know Jose Saria. And you know, maybe I'll talk about them once we see the videos. So take it away, Tassie. Did you know that the first openly gay man to run for public office in America was a drag queen? That's right, Jose Saria ran for supervisor of San Francisco in 1961 when it was illegal to be gay. Did you know that the 55th Empress of San Francisco is Taiwanese-American drag queen named Mimi Osa? My friend Mimi Osa originally hails from Alaska and found her way to San Francisco and joined the oldest LGBT charity organization of the world, the Imperial Council of And there you go. So the first video was about Jose Saria. Let's talk about him first. Jose Saria was the very first, again, I'm repeating myself from the TikTok, the very first openly gay man to run for public office in America. Yes. And when he ran, he was a drag queen already for 15 years. Can you imagine that? 1961, honey. Oh my God. Yeah. They were, you know, they were getting lobotomies, they were being electrocuted. She was that brave of, can I say the word bitch? I'm sorry. She was that brave of a drag queen to run because she knew there was a need to lead our community during that time. So hooray for Jose Saria. And you know what, for more information, nobody believed him or even considered him, but to much to everyone's surprise, he garnered 6,000 votes in 1961 and almost made it. to become a supervisor. And you know what? That was the very first time that America realized that there was such a thing as a gay vote. And people claim that that moment jump-started the political power of our community.
Oh my
that
gosh.
was when people realized that there's actually, a queer vote. And hence, here we are now.
Here we are now, 2020. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine? That's one of the reasons why I am a drag out the vote ambassador, because when I heard that 1 out of 5 LGBTQ Americans are not registered to vote, 1 out of 5, that's ridiculous. And that 100 million people in the US sat out in the last election. They just didn't go, and I've been doing phone banking. I've been doing text banking. I've been doing letter writing. I have a show coming up for the Drag Out the Vote, the Bay Area Ambassadors. If you are watching this and you are registered to vote, awesome. Now, go talk to 5 more people and make sure they're registered to vote. The registration deadline for California is October 19th. It's right around the corner. It's like in a couple of weeks. But on top of that, once you have a plan to vote, you need to look at the ballot and you need to figure it out. And then you need to have a plan to vote. Are you going to mail? Are you going to vote early? Are you going to go in person? If you go vote in person, wear a mask, wash your hands. Because there's so much that we can do right now, and that we in the queer and trans API community can do to sort of be the powerful people and make sure our voices are heard. This is what we need to do here in this election in 2020. You cannot take things for granted. Okay, do not take things for granted. Make sure you vote. Make sure you have a plan to vote, and then you get at least 5, maybe get 10, and then if you can donate. Do what you can. I can't say that enough.
By the way, did you see the debate last night? And
honey,
that fly is so popular right now, darling.
That fly though, right? It was a fly for me though. It was a fly. No. Did you watch Sanjeev?
We're catching it. It was very interesting to see it in real life, and we all have our thoughts on it. But Miss Fly buzzed her way on and stole the show, which I love. I can tell you that.
Anyways, I think we've digressed. So the second video that I featured in my TikTok is actually Mimiosa, who's the current empress right now. Again, shout out to the Imperial Council for doing fundraising all throughout the year. They raise money. That's all they do. And it's amazing work. They've been doing it for 55 years. Imagine that. And, alongside with it is the GAP organization as well, who also raises money for our community.
Yes, and I mean, I love the Imperial Court system and the Imperial Council here in San Francisco. San Francisco is the mother court, so it started the whole organization. It is the largest philanthropic LGBTQ organization in the world, okay? Largest in the world. I mean, and philanthropy and politics kind of go together, because when you're community building and you're getting out there and you're meeting people, that is the natural connection to build our political power and organize with each other. Organizing, I actually learned a thing. Organizing is literally just relationship building. It's really literally just I see you, you see me. Let's build our power together. Let's bring ourselves together as a community. If we're going to raise money for each other, if it's the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, if it's the Imperial Council here in San Francisco.
There's some communities here in San Francisco.
So many amazing.
Especially.
Yes. And GAPA, of course. GAPA is one of those community organizations that are fundamental part of our San Francisco experience here in the Bay Area. So now we're going to move on to a deeper thoughts section where we kind of take it a little bit deeper, a little bit more into it, where we talk a little bit about a specific issue or specific thing. And we're talking about Runway here, because Runway is the Rise of the Immortals. Can you tell us about this Rise of the Immortals event, Sanjeev?
Yes, the Rise of the Immortals is Runway 2020's new look. It's a new perspective looking at the journey of our immortals. Our immortals are runway winners, our previous Mr. and Miss GAPAs that have been being crowned for over 3 decades. That's iconic API royalty, and this is so incredible. And so rather than doing a competition this year, we have filmed an incredible video, or it's for, we'll call it a motion picture, that'll be premiered on November 21st on online platforms that showcases the history, the beauty, the revolutionary way our API, QT API plus immortals have helped grown our community. And it's so exciting. Rise of the Immortals is just a beautiful look back. And also it informs our future steps with knowledge, with wisdom, and with their beautiful divine beauty that comes through their stories. So I'm really excited about that premiering on November 21st.
I know. I mean, so like, you know, I spoke a little bit earlier about when I wanted to meet some of these, I called them immortals, but past winners of Runway. And when I finally met them, I met like Leah Tom Kwan, Miss Scapa 1990. I met Miss Maxine, Miss Scapa 1995. That's kind of like in the, you know, the first era of the first dynasty of the GAPA immortals. Think about how hard, how different the world must have been to be like, you know, as a drag performer in the 90s when like, you know, Don't Ask Don't Tell was sort of like, actually there wasn't Don't Ask Don't Tell yet because that was Clinton, but there was sort of like the Reagan era of like shame and the Bush era of just silence on the AIDS epidemic, you know, just people are just dying, you know, it's just, and that was what our community lived through and survived. And these GAPA immortals are still around and can tell us, you know, like give us their boba pearls of wisdom. You know, so, you know, but we're here in the present in 2020, and now Sanjeev, you're a GAPA immortal. What boba pearls of wisdom do you have?
I think for me, my boba pearls that I bestow on the community, and I usually always do double boba order. You know, going in and finding that whatever it is within you that makes you special. That's what being an immortal is. That's what being a royal is. And I don't want people to think that because I won the crown or because any of us got the crown on stage, that that's what solidified us. We were already royal within us. The crown already was within our souls. It just appeared more brightly that evening. But what really I want to impart on people is to go within, to find your beautiful palette of colors, and that can be all the colors or one color, however you want to define that, and share that. Beam it out no matter where you are. If you're the only person in that BART train, you be fabulous and you be beautiful. If you're standing in front of a platform of thousands of people around the world, you continue to be kind and beautiful. And I think that's really what being an immortal has taught me, is how to use my platform in a way to inspire others. Because again, at the end of the day, I talk about this a lot, is that I get to take the crown off. I get to take the drag off. But what really happens when I'm out there invisible, that activation within somebody else to say, I feel the crown on my head. I feel that beauty within me. And I think that's one of the things that we as immortals are leaving a legacy of. That's what our dynasty really focuses on.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
great.
Virginia, you were Mr. GAPA 2012. What was it like back then, 8 years ago?
What was life back then?
What was it like to be the GAPA royalty back then and to be representing GAPA? I mean, I don't actually know. I wasn't really involved back then.
Yeah, when I won, I was a year in the United States.
Oh my gosh.
And, I wasn't aware of so many things yet. I literally did not, I knew about racism, but I never really experienced it. So I don't know it firsthand. So I was just on my path of learning it firsthand. And GAPA was such a blessing for me because that sort of gave me hope that and I made me realize that I actually was not alone in this country, this foreign country. It opened up doors for me. It opened up the whole community of San Francisco for me. So I was really, really, in my opinion, given so many things and so many opportunities for that experience. So, and here I am now, little did I know that I would be making a documentary film about the Imperial Council, the pioneering organization, that I would be talking to you, Sanjeev, and Juicy Realness right now. And we're spearheading this talk show to shine a light to our community, and that's exactly what I want our audience to experience, is to be seen, and and identify themselves through us and through the culture that we bring, and the subjects that we talk about. I want them, like you said, Sanjeev, I want them to have that moment of realization that they could also be doing the things that we can do, because if we can do it, they can do it as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, yes. I mean, I just to reflect back on my time when I was Miss Kappa, I mean, I'll tell you this, I was not supposed to be Miss Kappa. I did not plan this to run for runway. I had been to runway before. Again, to paint the picture, it's the Herbst Theater. So it's a huge 800-seat theater. And like, I had been when it's like crazy, and I was like, can I ever do that? You know, up till then, my drag had been just sort of like in fundraisers and like little softball things, little tiny things, you know? But not like these huge gowns and not these huge looks and these huge personalities, you know? Question for Juicy though, am I running for office as Juicy? You know, that's a funny thing. That's a funny thing because I really respect people who can go into drag, into public office. Like Marty Gold Cummings is a person in New York, a drag performer in New York. There was also a drag performer in Los Angeles that ran for a council seat. I have no plans to run as Juicy, but I mean, if there's people who want to make, you know, get that going, we can get that going, I guess. But you know, but I just want to, you know, come back to becoming Miss Kappa, because becoming Miss Kappa for me was a sort of moment where I realized that, you know, we as anybody can get anything done with our community. If you bring people into your team, if you start building out, like if you ask for help, and asking for help in the API community, as a queer trans API community, it's hard sometimes because you think you can do it on your own, and you're just very told to like just deal with it, you know. And but I literally, when I was asked, and also ask people to step up into these positions of leadership. Actually, I would say being a royalty is a position of leadership because you literally represent our whole community, and you are a spokesperson for the queer and trans API community, whether you like it or not, you know. So like, you know, being asked by Jezebel, who was the host, to sort of just put my hat in and run for Miss Kappa. I was like, okay, well, I'm really horrible at makeup, so can I have someone help me with my makeup? I asked Chicago of the Rice Rockettes. I'm really horrible at concept. Can I have someone help me with concept? I got Don't You Visualize Me, another Gap Immortal, to help me with the concept in my video. And then, I don't have a dress, a flowing gown. Who can I ask for at the last minute? I asked Kylie Minogue, past Grand Duchess. You know, so help, people. Here's the thing. We can do anything if we can just all believe in each other and like lend a hand when you're asked, and then also ask for help when you want to do something.
Question: do we have a drag queen politician existing right now? Because that would be. What's your opinion on that? Do you think that we'll be taken seriously if we ran for if one of us ran for public office?
You know, there's actually one in the UK actually that was a drag queen. Didn't run as a drag queen, but did drag on the side, and that actually came out in their campaign, and they were fine. Like they thought, like the other side, the opponent thought that was going to be like a liability. But I think it just depends on your audience, and your constituents. And so like here in San Francisco, it's kind of like that would be awesome. And so like maybe I should be the first drag queen supervisor, the Castro.
So one tidbit, another history that I know, because I've been studying them as well. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. In 1983, one of them, named Sister Boom Boom, ran for supervisor and as well as ran for the mayor of the city, running against Dianne Feinstein.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I love that.
She became really popular. Her campaign was really, really funny. It was just to really call out, the status quo. And they were very radical then, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. They still are now. But that's a very important history of, drag, that we have actually been very political ever since. Before.
I mean, drag is politics, right? We're gender fuckery, as it were. We choose what gender performance we want to give. I want to bring it back, though, to our deeper thoughts a little bit with Sanjeev, since we have Sanjeev here. I mean, Virginia and I can talk about politics all day long, so don't you worry. But, tell me more, Sanjeev, about your divinity. You talked about a little bit about divinity and like stillness and like finding light. Can you talk about, how you define your divinity?
How I define my divinity, for me, I think really is that place within myself. It's a very personal relationship. Growing up in a very interfaith space and still very much participating in different sort of spiritual experiences with folks in community and things like that, I often see that people want to talk very loudly about their relationship with, I'm going to quote this, God or the universe or whoever you want to call it. But for me, that is such a private, personal, luscious, juicy, intimate relationship that I'm very private about that I'm very, it's just like, yeah, it's like an intimate partner within myself. And I talk and I cry and I express and I make love to and I process my trauma with. And so all of that informs how I project the energy out into the world. And so for me, my divinity is defined by kindness first and foremost. Unapologetically kind. And I think we're in a world where it's kind of cool to sometimes not be kind. And so many of our pop culture idols are like the mean girls and things like that, where I want to build a new way to be, say, kindness and being nice and being loving and being caring is really a great way to be as divine as possible. And also utilizing our intellect in a way. We talk about drag in politics, and I absolutely believe drag is wonderfully political because of the nature of its design, but it's also, a lot of people don't acknowledge this, that it is a high art, completely intellectual space. You have to know your references. And being in higher education, teaching in universities for the last 10, 13 years, I work with lots of wonderful scholars and things like that. Some of the smartest and most intelligent people I've met are drag performers. Just by the virtue of how you put together a look and how you present that message out. And so that divinity comes from kindness, intellect, and taking care of the vessel that we have. I'm grateful for this vessel that I embody, that I'm here for however long, a short period of time or however. And I'm just going to be kind throughout the process and be relentlessly connected to that.
I love that. Relentlessly kind. It's a tweetable moment, as Oprah would say. Virginia, do you have another question for Sanjeev, or we don't have too much time?
Yeah. I mean, talking about divinity, I think I've expressed to you, to both of you earlier before the show started, about choosing what divinity we are. I don't know if I'm digressing, but I think it's such an important topic as well. Again, going back to being compassionate to oneself, I actually chose unconditional love, not only towards others, but also for yourself. Your love for yourself should also be limitless, because then you have immense abundance of that. It doesn't run out. If you have unconditional love for yourself, you always have the capacity to be introspective, examine yourself. You can always reach out for that, and that actually, helps you maintain yourself, maintain your mental health, and move forward. And once you have that, then you have the capacity to also throw that to the people around you, and the people that you love, and the people who love you. And so I think that's one key to actually, be with community and support community. That's why we're here. That's why we're fundraising. That's why we're doing activism. It's because of that, essential love that you actually have for yourself. If you love yourself, then you love the person beside you. You love your community, and and so on and so forth.
It does start with the self, doesn't it? I mean, because the thing that I love about drag queens and drag performers and gender performers is that we are magic. We are divinity imbued into the world. Like, we are somebody's creation, and manifestation of an idea, a look, a feel, a persona, and realize, and so we're magic. And once we realize that we're magic, we can say, oh, we have the power to bring people together. Literally, like, that is our power. We have the power to, amplify a message, amplify voting, for example, amplify political engagement, amplify stillness. Like, can you amplify stillness? And think about how taking care of yourself, self-care, but also, like really caring for yourself as you would, a child, and nurture and be compassionate and talk to yourself in a nurturing, loving way. Meta love. If you're a Buddhist, meta love, kindness. Just thinking about it that way, and that drag performers, gender illusionists, people who are very visible have that power of just, reverence, of creating that reality, that, making it real, these things that can be ethereal. So thank you for this amazing conversation. I mean, I would just, maybe end this one last question, if we had time for one last question, is, what would your immortal self give advice to your mortal self? So what advice would your immortal self give to your mortal self during the time of most distress? And, we are here in a very distressing time in COVID times. But Sanjeev, since we have you here, how would you, what advice would your immortal self give to your mortal self?
That is, I'm reflecting on that kind of I'm in an introspective space, hearing that, just because I think that 10, 20 years ago, I had lack of love for myself. There was so much of that negative self-talk and the trauma that kept replaying. And a lot of my trauma was within my own community, within my own kind of space of people that looked like me. So I had sort of written it off. I said, I can't ever be friends or be in community with people who hurt me in some way. And so to think that now in 2020, that I am on a platform where I have been catapulted in front of the world to be a representative of my community because of my community who've helped me get here is wild. And that realization came from self-love. It came from healing and saying, it's okay what happened, and going through that. So if I were to look now, take my knowledge now and take it in a time machine to go back, I would tell Sanjeev, be shy, be as shiny as you want. Continue to be kind. I think that if I look back in the face of so much struggle and hardship that I went through, so much just really tough times, that I was always kind. I remember I would get beat up in class or made fun of and things like that. And the teachers would either do not much or try to make the person, who did that to me get in trouble, suspend them, expel them, things like that. And I would say, you know what, don't do that, because that's going to mess up their whole thing. And so I always found a way to be kind to people, even in those tough parts. I'm not saying to do that to everybody, because some people absolutely deserve some strong arming and get out of my face. But I would really tell Sanjeev to keep dusting yourself up, find your space of stillness and cultivate that, and stop feeling so guilty for loving yourself. I think that the cultural bundle that was passed down to me, where I wasn't aware of how amazing it is to have this relationship with myself. I'm my favorite pet, my favorite plant, my favorite spouse. I really treat myself as if I'm in this wonderful relationship, and I'm so happy. I see a lot of my friends getting married or becoming plant daddies or whatever and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, honey, I'm my own plant daddy, mommy, all of that. Mm-hmm. So go back into all of our lives and our history and find the toughest moments, and then look in those, reflect on those tough moments and say, well, I made it through. Mm-hmm. I made it through, and find the love and divinity there. I think that for me, I have to give a shout out to community. I didn't think that I would be so happy and so excited and so supported by people who look like me or who eat similar foods, because it was such a tough journey. Oh my gosh, I'm getting this is our little moment.
Just go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Embrace that.
It's so beautiful. And, when I won Mr. Gappa, it was such a whirlwind and all of that, and it still is. But the messages that I get from people all over the world saying thank you for being who you are, because it's given me some ability to see myself. And with the same token, I always, have to tell people it's really not about me. It's about you feeling that way. So if I can keep doing this, if I keep slapping the paint on my face and wrapping myself in saris and getting out there and prancing and dancing, I'm going to do it for as long as I can, because people feel supported. So long form, but back to you in the studio.
Yes, that's gorgeous. Oh my goodness.
That's beautiful, Sanjeev.
Yay,
That's
beautiful.
really, really beautiful. You know what? I went through, like I said earlier, I went through these challenges in the past few weeks. And, I really saw, and talking about your mortal self, I saw that part of me that, you might consider, um, negative, and I really saw myself throwing out that negative emotion to people, to specific people in my life. And you know what? I got exactly what I threw at them. And it hurt me a lot. And I was so distraught. And I think my advice for myself would be to just see myself as who I am and accept it for what it is, but also really see who I am beyond that expression at that moment. Because, once I saw past through that, once I saw past the evil that I threw in the world, I also saw, again, I'm crying, I saw, that unconditional love, again, I'm going back to that I already had. And I just forgot about it. Yeah. And my advice for myself is to, as fast as you can, go see beyond that evil that you're manifesting. Because it's not good to be in that space. Yeah. Yeah.
No, thank you both for being so vulnerable here with us here on our Queer Thoughts on Chopsticks Alley. I mean, I knew that this would be a rough, maybe tough conversation about mental health, shining mental health on LGBTQ people and culture. We don't get to talk about this a lot. So thank you for taking us there, and thank you for being so forthright to just with your emotions and your availability, because that really is a gift. What you're doing right now is a gift for our audience, for a gift for me right now. You're giving it to me. You're giving me love and life and this advice. If I had to answer the same question that I asked, because we're all immortals here. We're all immortals here. What would I advice give to my immortal self? Give to my mortal self during a time of distress? I would say, just remember that life is short, and the time that if you're obsessing about something that is causing you so much distress, just know that it'll pass. Like the Christian saying, "This too shall pass." That life is about your choices. So you can choose to sit and just dwell in the distress, or you can choose to say that happened and that's okay, and and process that feelings. I'm not trying to say toxic positivity here, be positive or anything, but choose happiness. I hate that, like sometimes it's okay to just be sad, but not sometimes, it is okay, it's a valid feeling, and know that like it'll pass, these things pass, and be kind and comforting to yourself, because like Sanjeev, you're saying, people getting married and pet daddies and stuff. Like I love Lizzo because she married herself. Okay, she's just like, and she did the whole wedding thing to herself. I did that number, and I love Lizzo. It's so inspiring. Love yourself and be your own best friend, and choose yourself. Choose it. And when I say choose yourself, it's like, yeah, you are awesome. Remember, and you are an amazing being here in the world, and you're magic. So don't forget that. Don't ever forget. Speaking of magic, we are here on Twitch, which is Magics. Thank you to our audience, our channels. If you are liking what our content here, follow our channels here, Chopsticks Alley. Follow, like, subscribe, do all the things. If you're on Facebook or whatever, all the things. There's so many things. Virginia, please, has a TikTok, Virginia_please. It's very simple.
Yeah.
Juicy Lou Realness, so follow me and all that stuff. But and Sanjeev has all the socials and all the things. We have all the things. Thanks to our
I think Juicy, we're actually broadcasting to 6 different channels right now. Twitch, the Chopsticks Alley channel, Juicy Realness channel, my personal channel. What else? Gappa channel, yes. There you go. I lost track, but
and also Create TV. If you're on Create TV in San Jose, shout out to San Jose. we have a little bit of more time here, and so we like to do games, and games like an improv game, like think theater. But so this comes from my my podcast that I have, Juicy Thoughts, THOTS Thoughts, Juicy Thoughts on podcasts. Find wherever you find podcasts. But Quid Pro Quo is this game that we play. Because do you remember the Quid Pro Quo? I don't know, Virginia. Do you remember that, Virginia? The Quid Pro Quo, like, you know what that? Do you remember? Am I referencing something? It's Latin, girl. It's Latin.
Yeah.
But quid pro quo means this for that, and there's this whole thing about Trump doing a quid pro quo and in the Ukraines and the things and whatever. So yeah, this for that. And this is a game where literally we just come up with whatever, like an improv, just off the top of your head. I need a word, pineapple. No. So this for that is just a game that we like to play where it's like, you know, something that came up for us in conversation, and I just make up shit. So sorry, I'm not supposed to say shit. Okay. So yeah, I think we've talked a lot about you know, our inner light. You know, the crown is inside yourself, the stuff like that. So maybe like, can we talk about like divinity maybe as a this or that? So what is the divine? What is the divine version of, you know, I don't know, grocery shopping? Divine version of grocery shopping.
What?
Yeah, so
grocery shopping.
Oh my gosh, this is like so the divine version of grocery shopping. First thing that comes to my mind is really the privilege and the opportunity to be in a space, to go nourish yourself, to have the resources, to engage in abundance, to nourish the vessel. I think that's for me divinity. You know, for some time I you know, was financially in a tough space, so I had to utilize assistance. So every time I went to the grocery store, I was like, I'm so grateful to be able to buy this fruit. I'm so grateful to be here. So that's what divine grocery shopping is: going to Trader Joe's and just being happy and nice to everybody, even if they're not nice to you.
Well, for me,
yeah, go Virginia, go.
For me, the divinity of grocery shopping is the ability to have a choice, right? When you're shopping, you're choosing, and we should protect our freedom to choose, because if we don't have that, especially right now with what's happening in the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Know where I'm going at. We need to protect our women, you know. Roe versus Wade, that's on the, you know, at stake right now. What else is at stake? We need to be alert to protect our freedom to choose choice to do whatever we want with our own bodies, especially for women. We need to protect that. We need to preserve that. And that for me is the divinity of, you know, grocery shopping. How did I even go?
This is also very like pageant time too.
Yes.
Like pageant questions, like the final question, like, you know, if you were a vegetable, what kind of vegetable would you be? Like that kind of question. Right, so, you know, let's do one more, and I invite you to, you know, think of your own this for that as I give you one more this for that. You know, the divinity version of, you know, showering. How about that? Divinity version of showering. Yeah.
I will let Virginia go first.
Shower, what the divinity of shower? Well, I think again, you know, it's that just the privilege of being able to renew yourself.
Yes.
Every day you renew your soul, being showered with the water of purification, or, you know, cleanliness, and purifying your soul, and having that privilege of, you know, exercising that every day, I think is what the divinity of showering means to me.
I mean, can you imagine though, like running water is the most important invention of our civilization, because without that was pestilence, disease, like the plague. It's because of running, like we don't have that because of running water. Because of running water, we can be hygienic, you know, and that's one of the things in the third world countries where there's like no running water, and you have to like, and you have a well that's like polluted and all, you know, it makes people sick and everything like that. So anyways, sorry. So yes, divinity of showering. Go, Sanjeev, go.
I think the divinity of showering, whether the water is coming from a pipe or a bucket in a bowl and you're cleansing your body, it's being in communion with your body. It's being in a beautiful relationship and feeling every crevice and every piece of this vessel in a loving, caring, cleansing way. Washing your hands all day, every day, and washing every other part that's important that's going to be on other people's body parts as well. But it's really about just the gratitude that I have as a very shower loving person to have running water or a bucket in a bowl. And to spend some time, intimate time with my body is such a joy. And that's my divinity of showering.
This is like Gappa pageant all over again. Oh my
God.
So do y'all have some for me? Do you have any like that comes to mind? And it could be divinity. It's like a word salad almost, to be honest. You know, like just think of something. And then we have to, and then you're just forced to answer. I'm forced to answer. So give me a hard one, Saji, if you have one.
What is, oh my gosh, what is your divinity of drag?
Ooh. Well, aside from the Divine, who is a drag queen, if you don't know who Divine is a drag performer that's in all these John Waters movies and ridiculous, like in the original Hairspray, right? But I would say finding divinity in drag, which again is creation. Drag is creation, right? Drag is the embodiment of some thought, some queer thought probably that someone had to realize into existence and just play the fantasy, live the fantasy. But then when you mix it in with divinity and you think about how powerful that creation is and how that creation can go on and spawn whole generations, legions of fans and movements and community building, that is true divinity because, you know, when you see the humanity in others, that's the true divinity. For me, for divinity is when you see the humanity in others and recognize that humanity is you, and you are them, and they are you, and we all are the same, and we are all one divinity of the human race. So that to me is the divinity of drag. Does that go for you, Seji?
That's fancy. It absolutely goes. It's the response for me. I live.
That's amazing. Do I need to respond as well?
You don't have to, but if you want to.
For me, the divinity of drag is imagination. When you're able, because for me, imagination breaks the barriers of gender, you know, gender identity and expression. It breaks whatever barrier, in my opinion. It also breaks the barrier of hate. In my opinion, if you're able to imagine, then you can look beyond what you already know and appreciate things that you haven't appreciated before. And yeah, that's it for me.
Love it, Virginia. Do you have a quid pro quo for us for divinity of something?
Okay, let me try. What is the divinity of, oh my God, should I stay in the drag realm? What is the divinity of glitters?
What?
Okay, so G, if you feel a certain kind of way, you go.
Glitter is even if there's one speck of glitter, you can find it in the dark. All it needs is a minor piece of light, a tiny speck of light to shine, and that is the divinity of glitter. That's it, period.
Yes. Well, for me, glitter, and I would hope you choose biodegradable glitter because that stuff, if it's little pieces of plastic, did you know there are 5.25 pieces of plastic, 5.25 trillion pieces of plastic in the ocean right now? Plastic debris. So when you use glitter, choose wisely and choose something biodegradable. But so that's my little PSA. But the divinity of glitter, my goodness, glitter fixes everything. Glitter for all makeup, like if you have an issue, if you have a problem, glitter fixes it. If you want to sparkle and you want to just feel a certain kind of way, feel a little extra, put a little bit of glitter on your cheekbone. If you want to feel like something that like you are this magical being that you are and realize that into being and become that unicorn and show out the world and let them know who you are and what you stand for, put some glitter on and I will guarantee you the divinity, the magic of the universe will come to you upon that application of glitter. And that is the true divinity of for me.
Application is the word. Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. All
That's
right.
so many
That was
games, right?
fun.
And that was our quid pro quo.
Yes.
Um,
right.
We are just now going to start wrapping up, but so like
Yep.
maybe we could go around for one more final juicy thoughts as we hit the 8:30 hour. You know, maybe Sanjeev, we'll start with you. Any final juicy thoughts, final queer thoughts for here on queer thoughts on Chopsticks Alley?
Yes. Well, first to Juicy and Virginia, you both are incredibly wonderful and beautiful, and it's an honor to be an immortal with you forever, forever bonded in our divinity. And it's just incredible. Juicy, you've taken such good care of me over the years, put me on, given me platforms. And Virginia, the way you educate us with your talent and your heart and your intellect is absolutely beautiful. And to the community and to really all of us who are watching and engaging in this, we're so beautiful and so special, each and every one of us. And I want to see this new era of society so full of our colors, so full of our rainbows, so full of our intersections, with so much love within us that it overflows and washes this planet, because we need that. We absolutely need unconditional love. We need absolute relentless kindness, and we need to start within ourselves. So I leave you with that.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Virginia, do you want to go next?
I don't know what else to add to that. Again, my, I'm repeating my divinity. The words that I chose. Again, Sanjeev said this: unconditional love. I can't stress some more. It's really, really abundant within you. You can just reach out within yourself. It's already in there. Be compassionate to yourself, love yourself, and put that love out there. That's it.
Yes, I love that. Thank you, Virginia. I mean, and for me, I'll use the remainder of my time here speaking to you directly, who's watching us, who has watched this beautiful, divine convening of GAPA Immortals, to really think about what you're going to do in the next 26 days until the general election, which is the last day to vote. Are you going to vote early? Are you going to go sashay to the polls with some friends? Are you going to make sure you get that mail-in ballot sent and delivered to whatever polling place? Are you going to volunteer some time to help talk to voters? I talked to some voters in Florida and Georgia last weekend, and talking about divinity, talking about like seeing ourselves in others and hearing ourselves in others if we're phone banking, having these conversations with people, it's one of the most important ways to get people to do something, like to activate people. And I say to you right now, you, the viewer, you have so much power right now. You have so much power at your fingertips in what your voice, and you can actually change minds, and you can actually get people to go out and vote. So I cannot stress it enough. That is this is the highest stakes election in our lifetimes. Democracy is at the stake. I am going into my little juicy rant thing here, but I cannot stress that enough. And also, babies, we have this beautiful thing called The Rise of the Immortals happening on November 21st, premiering on all the digital platforms. More information, gappa.org/runway. You can check out so many more. If you're an immortal and you're watching this, come with us and join us on this journey with, that Sanjeev, this beautiful platform that Sanjeev has created for us. Because we need you. We need the Rise of the Immortals. We need the energy of the past GAPA Immortals and current GAPA Immortals. We need that love. We need that divinity. We need that in our lives right now. And can I say one more thing? When you are up against some kind of struggle in your life, and you have something that you don't think you can do it, you don't think you don't think you can move forward, I want you to just think about this conversation. Think about, how can I be glitter right now? How can I fix this? How can I find the divinity of drag? Can I just put on some makeup and feel better about life? Can I just do that? Can I put on a cute dress or cute suit or something and just feel good and just like do a Superman pose. Because and think and then maybe can I ask for help? Can I ask someone else to help me and you know feel the love and feel the kindness? Because that it's available to you. It's abundant. The world is abundant. This has been our Queer Thoughts on Chopsticks Alley. I'm Juicy Lou.
I'm Virginia, please.
And I'm Sanjeev, and it's such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. We love you. Take care of yourself. Good night.
Have a great Thursday night, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you, Cassie. Thank you, Tassie. Thank you, Trammy.